Good evening. Unfortunately, Achenu B'nai Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael are still fighting for their lives and for the life of each and every Yid in Eretz Yisrael. And our Tilim, our Davening, our Tzedakah should be a schus to help carry over the top into the area of schusim for each and every one of them. I speak always, as you know, on the Parsha, but I'm making an exception for 2 minutes or 3 minutes tonight because I received, and literally this is an accurate number, 43 phone calls to ask me if a certain story was true. And I don't know how this went spiral or it went all over the place, but my wife in her shiur, she gives shiurim each and every week on the telephone on Sunday and on Monday morning, Wednesday, Tuesday, she gives a live shiur in our house for a group of women for the last 30 years. And in one of those shiurim, she told over that our daughter, who lives in Toronto and teaches in the Bais Yaakov of Toronto, a child in her class's mother was deathly ill, lo aleinu, lo aleichem, in the hospital, and for 4 hours she lost consciousness. And when she woke up after 4 hours, she said that she had an out-of-body experience. And the Gemara mentions this. So it does happen. And she saw a debate between tzaddikim and the malachim, the angels, whether she should live or not. And the angels said that she's needed, the tzaddikim said that she is needed to carry messages to Bnei Yisrael, a specific message, and the malachim said that no, it won't make a difference. We can't bring the Gula. Klal Yisrael is not ready for it yet. And what they actually did was the tzaddikim won out, and they decided that she should come back to this world, and she should say that she heard in the discussion that the problem was whether Achenu B'nai Yisrael have enough Avas Yisrael and Achdus Yisrael. And the decision was that she come back down, and she woke up and she told her husband what she saw, Rav David, her husband, and as soon as she got done telling over the story, an hour later, she was nifter. Now, many called, and I don't know where the story appeared to find out, is this true? Did this happen? And after the 43rd call, I said that when I begin my shiur for Torah Anytime, which we are very appreciative, and they conduct a network of one big Kiddush Hashem that anywhere in the world you can learn Torah, you can hear shiurim, whatever color, shape, size you want, you have it on Torah Anytime. And I'm also on YouTube, and this week I had around 400 who listened, or a little bit less than 400 who listened to this shiur. So whoever called me, whether their connection was this or that, I said I will address it the first few minutes of my shiur when I record Parshas Lech Lecha, that yes, it is true, And that I guess the message is so vital. We keep talking about Avos Yisrael and Achdus Yisrael. You see, even in Eretz Yisrael, many parties that didn't want to have anything to do with the government because they thought they were too right-wing ended up joining. Because that this is a time to show unity. So I guess for us, that is a limud, that if we think for a moment of a neighbor who may live on the block, who's Jewish but not from, to bring them in, invite them for a Shabbos Suda, or to do anything in the arena or under the umbrella of Achdus and Avas Yisrael, that we should put our foot forward and do it. Now, the Parsha opens and says, Vayomer Hashem el Avram, Lech Lecha me'artzecha u'mimoladetecha u'mibais avicha el ha'oretz asher areka. He told Avram to go out, but he didn't tell him where to go. And the Medrash says, because it was to give Avram Avinu schar on every single step that he took, because he didn't know he was 75 years old, and this was his birthplace. This is the place that he knew everybody there, and he was now told, go out. Where are you going? I'll show you. I will show you where you're going. So he had no idea where he was going, and the Medrash, that's what it's saying. That it had in mind, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to add on to his schar, because it was one of the nisyonos. Some Rishonim say that the Ur Kasdim, when he was thrown into the furnace, that was the first nisoyon of Avram Avinu. But others hold that this was the first of the nisyonos. But whatever it is, everyone agrees that this was one of the 10 nisyonos, shenisnasa Avram Avinu, that he was tested, and the question of how strongly he would stand up to the test was to be seen. So in this test, he was not told where he's going, and it says the purpose of not telling him was to give for every step that you're going to, you don't know where, extra schar. So the Maral Prague asks that when the other place that we find the lashon of Lech Lecha is by Har HaMoriah, by the Akedah. And there, the pasuk tells us where he was going. Lech Lecha el Eretz HaMoriah, to the Bais HaMikdash. So, if the purpose in not saying over here, Lech Lecha, where he was going, was to give him extra schar, so why didn't HaKadosh Baruch Hu eliminate to say Har HaMoriah and just say Lech Lecha, like he says over here, to give him more schar? So the Maral Prague answers and says that the halacha is that if a person goes, there's a shul a half a mile away or a mile, it's a bigger mitzvah to go to the further shul, because you're going to meet with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And if it's just a question of not knowing where you're going and what's going to happen, so then you can get the extra schar for each step. But if you know where you're going, you shouldn't get the schar. But the exception is, like a shul, when you're going to meet with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it doesn't have to be anonymous. It doesn't have to be without a designation and a destination to get the extra schar. The mere fact that you're going to daven in a shul, you should take the further shul, because every step then, even though you know where you're going, is with extra schar for each and every step, because you're going to meet with the Shekhinah. And that's why over here he didn't tell him where he was going, and over there he did tell him where he was going, because he was still going to get the extra schar for each and every step that he was going. So we have to realize that designation is very crucial, and that when we set out on a mission, the mission itself is not the only thing to consider. It's the hachonas. And hachona sometimes does get the mitzvah. The hechsher mitzvah, of course, is part of mitzvah, but how far it goes with, let's say, each and every step or not, depends on where and what we are doing. Now, the pasuk begins and says, as I say, El horetz asher areka, va'avorecha mevarachecha u'mekalelcha or v'nivruchu v'chokol mishpechos ho'adama. But before that it says, va'agadlo shemecha veheye bracha. Now Rashi says on veheye bracha that ad achshav, until now, the brachos were mesurim biyodi, that they were in my hand. Va'achshav, and now they're going to be in your hand. Because until then, the only bracha that came down from Shamayim to this world was the bracha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided to give to people. People themselves could not initiate brachos that would work. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I am now giving you over the power. And Mefarshim say that when the Gemara says that tzaddikim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants something, and tzaddikim don't want it, that they have the power to be mevatel what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted or didn't want. And that they could be goizer to do, and they could be mevatel if they don't want. And where did it come from? From this second pasuk in our Sedra with Avram Avinu, that now he was given, and that's why there's a Hasidic taich. You see, the word yad means hand, but it also is a reference to a yud. Yodi meaning my yud. The simple meaning, as we just said, of course, means my hand. But biyodi, because yud ke vav ke is above, and it starts with a yud, and then it goes down to the hey, and then to the vav. The Shem Adna, Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud, is lower. And if the bracha started with the Yud, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with Yud, it was up there, Biyodi. Va'achshav, because the last letter is also a Yud in Adna, Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud. And now he said that now you have the power from down, under, to captivate and capture the power of Yud Lamata here in this world, and you can have brachas, which is isarusa dilatata. You see, there's two expressions. One is isarusa dilaela, that a person is zoicha to a bracha from heaven without him doing anything. And that's a bechina of Chodesh Nisan, like Pesach, that if someone would not do any mitzvah on Pesach, he would still be showered with bracha, but no comparison that if he did the mitzvahs And that's why we say in every Shemona Esrei of Yom Tiv, V'hasienu Hashem Elokeinu es birkas moyadecha, that the bracha of your Yom Tiv should come on us in full flourish, and we should be able to be saturated tremendously with that and permeated with that bracha into the essence of our ruchnius and our gashmius. So, but if tzaddikim, for instance, give a big bracha to someone, that's because Avram Avinu at this point was given a gift from Shemayim that his yud from here in Olam Hazeh should be able to effectuate bracha, and we don't have to wait till just Shemayim does it, but we can do it, and that's what the Bnei Yissaschar says is the difference between, let's say, Chodesh Nisan and Chodesh Tishrei. In Chodesh Tishrei, it's a bechina of Isarusa Dilatata, that we begin the process of a bracha happening with starting action down here in Olam Hazeh. Isarusa Delayla is the bracha comes down that there was no action, there was some reason that in Shemayim they began the process and gave the bracha to effectuate each and every yid the way it has in its process without anyone doing anything. But Tishrei is Isarusa Dilatata, and therefore if someone doesn't take a shofar on Rosh Hashanah and sound it, or he doesn't take the esrog and lulav in Tishrei or the sukkah, he cannot begin the process from down here. He has to take the shofar. Then he breaks through the barriers with the Tekiyah shofar, and he's able to elicit that tremendous response. Now, I did mention to you around 15 or 20 weeks ago, maybe even sooner, the fact that Avram Avinu was Chesed and that Yitzchak was Gevura and that Yaakov Avinu was Tiferes, which his midah was Torah, and Yitzchak excelled in Avodah and Avram Avinu in Chesed. Now, if you look at the first few Rashis, it says, V'agad l'shemecha zu ma she'omer melokei Avram. And then, zu ma she'omer melokei Yitzchak. And then Yaakov. So in the beginning of Shemona Esrei, we mention Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So Rashi says, Yochol, you may think, Yehei choismin bekulam, that we're going to finish the bracha Mogen Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov. You may think Hashem said to Avram that we're going to conclude the bracha because we're mentioning at the beginning of Shemona Esrei all three, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So you may think we're going to finish and end the bracha also Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So Talmud Lomer Becha Choismen, that with you, Avram, only Melech Ozer Moshiach Magen Baruch Atah Hashem Magen Avraham. And I explained to you then that Torah 500 years ago was very powerful, and today we may have, in terms of quantity, more Torah learning, but we don't know if the quality is what it was 500 years ago. And davening, they used to take 9 hours a day, the chachana and the davening and the after davening. But the chesed of this door is more than any other door before. And the Gemilas Chasodim. And that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, B'chochoismen, before Mashiach comes, we will end the Seder Hadoros B'chochoismen, with your chesed, your midah of Gemilas Chasodim, and all the chesed that Klal Yisrael will be doing. They won't be able to use the shield of Torah, which will be Mogen, but it won't save the day. And Yitzchak's davening won't save the day. It'll be a backbone. It'll be a cementing factor, but it won't be the actual clinching effect. But you, Avram, B'chochoismin, in your schus of all the tzedakah and chesed, that's how we will finish off the doros. Now, we find in our Sedra that the Roye Lot and the Roye Avram, the shepherds, couldn't get along. And Avram came to the point, he said to Lot, listen, we can't exist together. You choose, you want to go to the right, I'll go to the left. You want to go to the left, I'll go to the right. But we can't continue the way we're living together. By the way, the Medrash says, what happened to Lot? Lot in the beginning was the Medrash says, a tzaddik gomer. He grew up by Avram, he learned from Avram, and he behaved like Avram. But when Avram Avinu went down to Mitzrayim, and he stayed there for 90 days, Lot went with him and fell into the 42nd Street activity. And once he was there and he got back, he chose to go straight to Sodom. Even though he said this reason, that reason, but Rashi brings it, that was all just a cover-up. He only wanted it for the immorality and to be in Sodom, that he could do whatever he wanted and how he wanted and what he wanted, and that's why he chose Sodom. But Nebuch, you see the effect of a community in 90 days changed this man from tzaddik gomer to a rasha gomer. So anyway, they parted ways, and the pasuk says that v'lo yachlu losheves yachtov, and then it gives you a reason why they couldn't live together. Ki hoya rechusham rav, because they had so much cattle that's what the pasuk gives as the reason. But interestingly, it then goes back and repeats the pasuk, the words, v'lo yachlu losheves yachtov. And why did it have to repeat that statement again? So the Meforshim tell us, even though it said it, and then it told us the reason, after the reason they shouldn't have gone back and discussed it anymore. There was just the split. But the reason that the Torah told you again that they couldn't live together is because every machloikis that happens, whether it's in a family, whether it's in a community, whether it's in a shul, any machloikas, if you don't nip it in the bud, and you don't step in to make shalom, and you don't take away the heat and the hate that machloikas has, then even though you solve ostensibly the problem, but it festers on almost forever. You've seen families, there's a Yerusha, it's $10,000. Now, $10,000 we all know is nothing. And I don't mean that it's nothing, because we know we can do a lot of good things with $10,000. But no one's life was made or broken because of $10,000. Yet you will see families that somebody feels they were cheated out of $10,000 in the Yerusha, and their kids don't go to their first cousin's bar mitzvahs or weddings or anything, break up an entire family because of a few $1,000s. And that's why the pasuk comes back and says, "V'lo yachlu losheves yachlav," a second time. Because if you let it go on, the machloikas, so even when you think on the surface you're solving the problem, but the bad feeling remembers almost remains almost forever. So we have to be promoters of Shalom, and that's the reason why benching ends off with Hashem Yevarech Esamo V'Shalom. That's the reason the last bracha of Shemona Esrei is Sim Shalom or Shalom Rov, whichever nusach you have. But Shalom is a crowning theme which makes the difference in a person's life and his surroundings. So people shouldn't be so quick to say, no, I didn't want to get involved, and what did I have to put my nose in? Or what? For promoting Shalom, put your nose in. For promoting Shalom, get involved. Because only good can come out if you're sensible and tactful and diplomatic in how you address the problem. Now, and we find that in two Sedras, that the Roye Yitzchak with the Roye Gror couldn't live together either, and they were fighting over a well. Now the first well, the Torah gives us a reason that they were talking and they were arguing, and they gave a reason why the fighting, and therefore they called it Asek, the well, the name of the well, Ki Hisasku Imo, because they were discussing and fighting, and they were able to solve it, and they left it alone. But the second well that they fought, they called Sitna, which means hate. And there's no reason given in the Torah. And it's for this very reason that I just said, because they did not solve the problem, and it remained on, and it festered the animosity and the hatred. So they just called it the name, and they didn't go into any reasons or any discussion, because there was nothing to discuss. There was only hatred and anger. Now, we know that in this Sedra, that the First World War took place. There were 4 kings that went after 5 kings, 5 countries, which each had its own king. And the end of the story was that the 4 kings beat the 5 kings. But one of the kings in the winning of the war grabbed Lot. And they kidnapped Lot, and it says, Vayavo hapolit. That was Og Melech HaBashan, and as the Medrash says, he went and told Avram Avinu that, oh, you know, your nephew Lot was just kidnapped. His intention was that Avram Avinu would jump up and run to save his nephew and to free him. And he'd get killed because Avram Avinu, there's 2 opinions in the Gemara, that how did he go to wage war? So one opinion is he went with Eliezer, just Eliezer, the 2 of them. According to another opinion, he went with 3, the Pasuk says 318 men. Now, even if you hold it was not just Eliezer, whose name was Begematria 318, but you went with actually 318 men, how could you go up against 40,000 or 60,000 of the army that they were up against? So obviously his emunah carried the day, because it says, Vayorek es chanichov. And the Gemara asks, what does this mean? That Avram Avinu. So it's, one opinion is that he drenched and doused all of the people who were going with him with Torah, and started telling them Divrei Torah, like to the top, so that the Schus HaTorah would carry the day and they would win. The other opinion is that he took bushel baskets of gems, of diamonds, rubies, sapphires, emeralds, and he threw it on the 318 men. Now, obviously, these men were tzaddikim gemurim because they were ready to go ahead. We're going to get load. They saw there was only 318. They were going up against 60,000. What did they think? That they were going to judge? But they had emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's why the Medrash says, how actually did Avram Avinu win the war? It says that he scooped up from the ground dirt in his hand, and he threw it at the army, and the dirt became spears. Spears. And it killed them, and he won the war. Now, why would he have thrown jewels at them? We could understand the Torah, because the Schus HaTorah, there's nothing bigger, and he would be able to have that as a fortification in winning the war. But to throw jewels, according to that Mandi Amar, why did he throw jewels? And they were tzaddikim. They were ready to put their lives on line. They held HaKadosh Baruch Hu was going to take care of us without question. So what do they need the jewels? So the Mefarshim explain that Avram Avinu was afraid that when they would get to the army and where they were encamped and where they were, he's going to find they just won a war. They went into 5 cities and they took all the diamonds, and they were going to come in. They never in their lives saw such gashmias. So he wanted to de-energize. He wanted to take away from the Satan a vehicle that the people, even as tzaddikim, you walk into a room, let's say any big tzaddik today, you put him into a house and the room is filled 5 feet high with emeralds worth $10 billion. He could become dazzled. And the Mefarshim say that it's a lesson to each and every one of us. We go to daven and we are very meticulous in kashrus, and we are Shomrei Shabbos to our best and to our... And sometimes the thought could come into our mind, yeah, listen, my day starts with Yiddishkeit, my day ends with Yiddishkeit. I could pass a test of this or that. This is to teach us that even tzaddikim who were ready to go out and wage war against all odds and had perfect emunah, that there is something in Olam Hazeh that the Samech Mem, the Yetzer Hara, will use as a vehicle to derail the tzaddik and have him slip into a mode of Gashmias. So he threw at them the diamonds. So they already had, each one had next to him a bushel basket of emeralds, a bushel basket of rubies. So even if he saw in all of this, he would not be dazzled by it. And that's why he actually sent and did that. But the Mefarshim ask an interesting kasha. You see, Avram Avinu was called Ivri. It's in our Seder the first time. Ivri means Hebrew. We're called Hebrew Jews, Yehudim, because of this Ivri. But Ivri, the word itself, means opposite. And Avram, as everyone knows and everyone saw in the Medrash, that he had no problem with standing on one side and the whole world being on the other side. And that's the reason, by the way, last week when everyone had children, they said he was this and this age when he had the family, and then at this and this age he died. But when it came to Terach, it doesn't say the years. And the Mefarshim explain, because a father of children has a double job. It's not just to have the children, but to be the role model for the children. And that they don't have to hear a lesson from the father, they have to see him saying Kriya Shema, or opening a Gemara and singing to a tune with his slavas, with fervor, with zest, with zeal, the delicious tam of Tam Torah, or how to run to do a mitzvah that someone's at the door, that not just to hand them the $5 bill and slam the door in their face, but to say, it's a cold night, would you like me to bring you a hot coffee, a hot tea? Can I give you something? Do you want to sit down for 5 minutes? That's the lesson in Chesed. And since every one of the preceding Doros had what to teach their children, their names are mentioned and their years are mentioned, but not by Terach, because he was only teaching Avodah Zarah. And we don't want to learn from him. We don't want him to impart his lifestyle to his children, and that's why it's not mentioned. But Avram Avinu was Megayer and was Mashpia on thousands. So how could you be an Ivri on the opposite of the world and act differently and still be the Mashpia? And the Mefarshim say it depends on your level of commitment, your fortitude, and your backbone. That means if you believe in something and it's 100%, it's not just talk, and it's not just parading round in a certain format, but you are able to live and demonstrate what really is in your heart, and in your heart it is 100%, then you can behave a certain way that the whole world could look at you like you're crazy. But if this is something he felt that this was the way to live, and this was the way to project, so even if the whole world was on the other side, you can do it, and you can do it successfully, stepping into the sea of difference of opinion and difference of position and difference of lifestyle, if you know it's the truth and it's the right thing. Avram Avinu's love for HaKadosh Baruch Hu was so great and so manifest that it permeated every inch of every heart and every mind that he touched, that he had thousands of Balei Tshuva, people that realized and did and that lived their lives that way. So you'll ask a question, why did Avram Avinu risk everything? He wasn't a fool, and he had the faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but to go up against 60,000 people and to feel that you're going to win, to pick up dirt and think it's going to turn into spears, I mean, but the reason he did it, the Chazal say, is because Lot looked exactly like him. Exactly like Avram Avinu. And if he didn't get up and save him, the world would think that, we caught Avram Avinu, and we told him, we put a spear by his neck, that he had to bow down to this Avodah Zarah, and he did it. So you see, we brought him back to our side. So Avram Avinu felt he had to put his life on the line because of the possible Chilul Hashem that could come out if he didn't save Lot, and that they realized it was two different people. One was the nephew and one was the uncle. So when we say, who cares what this one says or that one says, we sometimes have to take caution to avoid a Chilul Hashem, which means that we have to be in a position of safeguarding the sanctity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name and His Shekhinah. And that means there's some things that are above and beyond. We can't accomplish it or do it because it's out of our reach. But that which is within our reach, we have to push ourselves in every which way to avoid any misrepresentation of what true Yiddishkeit is and what Klal Yisrael stands for. Now, after the war, the Melech Sodom said to Avram Avinu, give me the men and you take all the money. There was lots of money, booty, sholol. And Avram Avinu picked up his hands and he said, Harimoisi yodi lekel elyon ose shamayim va'oretz im michot v'ad sroch nal. If from a thread to the shoelace of a shoe I take from you, chas v'shalom, I will never take anything, because I don't want that anyone in this world should be able to say, I am the one who made Avram Avinu rich. It was only HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, the Ger Rebbe, the Imrei Emes, who was the father of the three brothers who became Ger Rebbes, the Bais Yisrael, the Lev Simcha, and the Pnei Menachem, the three brothers, but their father, the Imrei Emes, said that when Avram Avinu picked up his hands, the pasuk, when we learn it, we think that he picked up and he was talking to the Melech Sodom. I don't want that you should have from any of my hands even the slightest anything that it came from you. But the Imrei Emes said he wasn't talking to the Melech Sodom, he was talking to his hands. Because the koichi v'oitzem yodi, people go into a business and they make $3 million and they're thinking and they feel that Baruch Hashem, I outwitted the competitors and I did this and I did that, and that's why I made the money. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't give you the bracha, in one day you could have lost everything. It was only a bracha from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And because he said that from a thread to a shoelace of a shoe, the Gemara says he was zoicha to 10, 12 mitzvahs, that the mitzvah of tzitzis, because it looks like threads. That's why Klal Yisrael was zoicha to a mitzvah of tzitzis. Because he talked about sroch nal, chalitza, which the man who is the brother that doesn't marry the widow wears a shoe that's taken off and then she spits, and the whole process of the mitzvah of chalitza chut hasikra on the mizbeach, which differentiated between the blood on the top and blood on the bottom, and there was like a line going around the mizbeach called the chut hasikra, was because he said the word im michut v'ad sroch now. And we were, because he said na'al, shoes, we had the mitzvah given to us of being oile regel. Oile regel. Now, the question is asked, I mean, it was nice that Avram said it. It was a big Kiddush Hashem. It was a beautiful gesture. He didn't want the money from this guy, that the guy could go around saying, well, Avram Avinu is very proud. Yeah, I'm the one that started them off. I'm the one that gave him all this money. It's a nice attitude. It's a nice thing. He was giving up all those millions and billions and whatever it was. But the fact is, why was he zoichet to so much? At one, so many mitzvahs which remained ledoros even after Mashiach, these mitzvahs, because he made this statement. And they answer and say that we know that the path for the doros, the generations, was paved by the Avos, and Moshe Rabbeinu, and Shivtei Ko, things that they did, of Yosef HaTzadik, had an effect. It became enmeshed in the Metzius, in the actuality of the composition, Ruchnius, of each and every Yid. Like we say that because of the Chesed of Avram, we have the power of being Goyim LeChesed. Because of the Akedah, Yidden were able to give their lives with Shema Yisrael. And so it was to entrench. It was given as a gift because it was a moment. Take a look what happened. He was supposed to be killed in a war, so that Og wanted to marry Sarah. And look what ended up happening. He decimated the whole army, brought Lot home, and was able to make a Kiddush Hashem. Only his three friends, Eshkol and Mamre, on there. Those three, he said, those have a right because they fought with me and they stood with me, that they should take something of the spoils for themselves, for their time, for their, I'm not touching a thing. And it paved the way for Maisa Avos Siman Labanim. So once it affected Klal Yisrael in such a way that it became the pathway for so many mitzvahs, because there's nothing better than doing something, it says that even though the world in Shamayim is the oilam of Oimed, that means when a person learns for an hour here in Olam Hazeh, he gets schar for every second. Up there, he can't. That's why we put our tzitzis in. Otherwise, we're making fun of the nifter when we're burying him, that if the tzitzis are out, so it's like saying, aha, you're dead now. You can't have the mitzvah of tzitzis. We have the mitzvah. So we're supposed to put the tzitzis in, not to make fun and tease the nifter. And this is the world of Hoylech, that every second we take a nickel and give it to someone, we give someone $1 to get a hot drink. It's not only the chesed and not only the tzedakah from that hot drink, if he could make a bracha and he could this, he has a chelik and all the good that comes out. But when the person dies, it stops. It's called the oilam of oimed. But on a yard site, if the family are saying Kaddish, Yehei Shmei Rabbah, and then having a Suda for Aniyim and learning Mishnayos, which Mishnah is the Oisios Neshama. So all of those things, kick in. It has an everlasting effect. The power to have an everlasting effect was the schus of Avram Avinu in what he said in such a moment of temptation that anyone else would have taken the money that was being offered. You know, there's a saying that the spoils of war are to the one who went, to the victor. So he had every right to take it, but he didn't. And he overcame the temptation and what he did, so it remained in so many directions good for his children. Achenu b'nei Yisrael hanasunim batzor v'ashivya ha'omdim bein bayom uvein bayabosha hamokim yirachem aleim v'yotziim mitzoro l'revocha u'mi'afela li'oira. We should be able to see with our eyes the great victory of Uvnei Yisrael, Yoitzim biyod Rama.